Hello and welcome to another episode of the Strategy and Soul podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you follow and like and subscribe, share, do all the things, leave us reviews. Today I say us because I am joined by a guest. This is another guest episode and I'm so excited to talk to Tasha. This was such a random collision of souls here, guys. And I just wanted to say that I'm so passionate about bringing you listeners to a place where you're getting immense value out of really experienced people from all different industries. And the reason why, as you know, this podcast exists is because it's all about actual collaboration, which is a massive passion of Tasha's. And Tasha's business, I'm going to let her introduce it because it's a very, very small niche. It's a tiny little pocket in a massive industry that has never been dominated before by the type of skill set. So, Tasha, introduce us. Tell us, what is this amazing business of yours?
Well, thanks so much for having me. So I am a goldsmith. My background is in engagement rings, diamond jewelry of all kinds, repair work. I've worked for jewelry stores off and on over the years. And then about 5 years ago, just about 5 years ago now, I started Rhythm Jewelry, which is a company that creates gold and sterling silver jewelry inspired by dance. So we started that about 5 years ago, and most people ask if I have a dance background, and I do not. So it's been a bit of a challenge coming into a niche market that I'm not necessarily a part of. I'm a part of now, though. So
yeah, it's so wild to think that you've created such unique pieces that can be used by dancers that are obviously safe, they're aesthetic, they're something that is really sought after. Because as we had joked about privately, was that you want to go to the store and it's jewelry and then it's like a tiny little ballerina with like a diamante on it and it looks like it's for a 5-year-old on a display chain. That's not what we're talking about here. This jewelry that is being made by Rhythm Jewelry is insane quality. I cannot even believe how deep you go into the technicalities and the positioning of each little character. Tap shoes, there's this new range for tap dancers as well that has come out or coming out recently when we discussed it in the recording. So don't quote me on that timing because Tasha will be able to tell you more about that at the end of the episode when she does her amazing pitch. But what I really, really want to touch on is the topic that we felt into in our pre-chat about accepting criticism on something that you're very, very skilled at. Because we're talking 15 plus years of experience as a goldsmith, as a diamond queen who knows all the things and is.
I like that. Diamond queen.
The diamond queen, Tasha. That is you now. I pronounce you the diamond queen. And
perfect.
It's so unique. Like, it's such a unique niche. Like I said, there's like that, such a beautiful industry. And I'm sure that it's pretty tight knit as well at the caliber of the clients and the price range that you were working at before you started Rhythm Jewelry. So I would love if you could talk to us a bit more about collaborating with the dancers who are the ones that are using these beautiful products that you've made. And how does that feel? Or even in the early days, like transitioning from working as an employee quite high up in that industry and then coming into your own and having to take on this feedback to really curate a range that spoke volumes.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little tricky. So it kind of came to me by chance. I have friends who are dancers and have been involved in the dance world for a very long period of time. And my background is in custom of all kinds. Lots of engagement rings, corporate jewelry, any type of custom. I've probably done it over the years. So my dance friends just kept saying, you really should consider doing a line of jewelry for dancers. And I was like, that's a hard no. Like, what do I know about making jewelry for dancers?
And adults as well. Like, these people that are adults have actual opinions. It's not a little ballerina on a set of studs.
Yeah, so they just kept asking and asking, and they started getting really aggressive about it. So I did a bunch of market research into it, and they were right. Everything that was designed for dancers was designed for 5-year-olds. It was very young and kind of like costume jewelry. There was nothing for any of the other genres besides ballet, like very little. There's very little for tap or salsa, or like there's this whole world of all different kinds of dance, and there was really nothing that was made specifically for them.
Yeah.
So long story short, I took the leap in, which was, I'm not gonna lie, it was terrifying. And if anybody tells you being an entrepreneur is not terrifying, they're totally lying to you. So I took the jump, and that was about 5 years ago. And then since then, I have relied very heavily on the dance community to collaborate with and give me feedback to make sure that we're going down the right path and creating things that they want or things that they feel represent them accurately.
Yeah. And mindset wise, how do you, I guess, move past that barrier of, oh, that, they maybe didn't really like that one, or I just introduced them to this next product that I was going to make, and they're like, hey, that's way off. Like, you need to fix this, or how does that feel? And what are the thought processes that you have to go through to get to the result?
Yeah, I think you have to have a thick skin. So not everything is going to be a hit the first time. For me personally, when I do designs, I have a closed Facebook group. We keep it closed so that people are feel a bit more free to answer. They can also private message as well. And we run a lot of designs through there first.
Nice.
And that's a lot of point the toe. First, we start off general. Do you want ballet? Do you want salsa? Do you want jazz? Do you want acro? Like, where do you want me to go? Earrings, necklace. We do a lot of like votes.
Nice.
Then once we start narrowing it down, then we start throwing out specific designs, point the toe, lift the leg, the head's not right, whatever it happens to be. And then we just keep narrowing it down and tweaking it from there. But I think particularly as an artist, whenever you're creating something, you have a tendency to get really attached to it. But you have to kind of do a bit of a disconnect. I'm not going to be perfect for every person out there. There's always going to be someone who's going to look at my jewelry and be like, oh, that's too expensive. There's always going to be someone who's going to say that's not expensive enough. You can't be everything for everybody, and you have to be okay with that. Sometimes people just aren't your people, and that's fine. So I think it's very important to be very clear on who it is that you want your product to speak to, because if you're trying to speak to everyone, you're not speaking to anyone really. So to just be very clear with who it is that you're speaking to. And then I find that the more specific you are, the more feedback you get, and the better the sales are that way.
Yeah. So you've really nailed that, like, transition from general advice and general comments to something very finite and very, it's got to be succinct, because if you're ready to receive that information and apply it. And I think application is what I'd love to highlight here that Tasha's doing well. I really admire that you're able to apply feedback in a constructive way. It's like a skill. It's something that you've practiced over time, and you've probably at one stage, even talking now, I'm sure you're very blissfully unaware of what transition looks like. You've come so far since the beginning, and it's probably like, oh yeah, water off a duck's back. It's in one ear, out the other. It's like, yeah, whatever, like it is what it is. And you're used to this process of everyone in my community. I need to know where we're going with this, because I have the skill. I have the passion for service. I have the artistic ability to create these things, and we're monetizing it. Let's be real. Like, we want everybody to be able to monetize not only their passions, their skills, their time and energy that they want to invest, but like you said, you've got to have a bit of a thick skin, because if you're attaching that emotionality to it and you're not separating
Absolutely.
into what is best for my business right now, what do my clients actually want? And it can be service-based as well. This also applies to service-based, because you need to know what your client wants. There's no real point in making something that you don't even know if it's going to sell. And in some ways you could do that and experiment and it totally flops. And is that really a failure? Well, that comes down to mindset. Again, it's perception. It's, am I going to view that as, well, that didn't work out, so that's no dice. Oh, I'm never doing that again. Wow, wow. And then we just go straight to victim mode. And I don't want to sound, I don't want to sound like I'm condescending either, because a lot of the time we can just easily slip into that if it's a habit for our brain.
Yeah. I think you have to be very clear on what it is you're creating for. So if you're creating because you want to monetize, then you can't just make what you want and hope somebody's going to buy it. You have to be very specific. And my whole career has been in custom. And I learned very early on, custom jewelry is not about what I want. I can make something that is not my style and something that I would never, ever wear. But if you're the client and that's what you want, that is what it's about.
You're like,
so if you're looking at monetizing something, being very specific on making what people want to purchase versus making what you want and hoping people will buy it. And then on the other side of things, there's absolutely nothing wrong with creating for the sake of creating and not expecting to sell it ever. I think there's a lot of pressure that anytime we're creative or we make something, it has to be monetized and you have to make sales off of it. And sometimes, not that I have a lot of free time, but sometimes it's nice to just come into the studio and make something because I think it's fun and I want to see if it's going to work. And I never have any intentions on selling it. Sometimes I just melt it down and make something new. So I think there's a bit of a balance between that. When you mentioned the mindset before, I have a lot of friends who are in the small business world. And you have to be okay with no's. You have to look at the no's as a positive rather than a negative. The more no's you get, the sooner the yes is going to come.
Yeah.
But I know so many people who they hear one or two no's and then they just give up or they feel defeated and they move on to something else. And you have to be okay with the no's because not everybody's going to get you.
Yeah. And I just want to I'm going to pause it here for a second. I did this intentionally because the whole connection just cut out. So I'll edit this little bit out. And if you can just say it again, it's so beautiful just to create for the sake of creating. And sometimes I just come into the studio. We got all of that. But the last point that you said, I couldn't hear it about monetizing. Not every single thing that we have to do is about monetizing. And then you said something else after that, but it didn't quite catch on. So
yeah, sorry. Maybe I hope it's not my internet.
It is a little bit.
When we chatted before, the internet was totally fine. So hopefully it's I can switch that. That might be easier. Am I freezing up?
A little bit. Let's go again. Just try it out.
Do you want me? Why don't I switch? Here, just give me 2 seconds. Okay. Let me switch. Ooh, I don't know where you went. So I think that you have to be very clear on what it is that you're creating things for. If you're creating a product because you want to monetize it, it's important to create something that people are going to want to buy. I think a lot of artists get caught up in this is what I want to make and people are going to love it and they're going to buy it, which isn't necessarily the case. There's been so many pieces I've launched where I'm like, I would probably not wear this. It's not my style, but it winds up being a really big seller.
Yeah.
So if you're focusing on monetizing, creating something that somebody is going to want versus what you want to make is really important. And then there's also nothing wrong with creating things for the sake of creating them without ever having the intentions of selling them. I think there's a lot of pressure nowadays on artists and on small business owners to monetize everything.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with knitting blankets because you just love to knit. You don't necessarily have to sell them. So I don't have a ton of free time, but when I do, sometimes it's nice to just come into the studio and create for the sake of creating or try something because I want to see if it's going to work. And I never have any intentions on selling that. Sometimes I just melt it down and make it into something else later. But there's something important about
that's so creative.
There's something about the process of creating just for the sake of creating, and that's okay too.
Yeah,
So
I can
think
feel
just,
like it's like you sense the beauty in that of just, this is what I'm making because I want to make it. And you've owning that. There's so much power in everything that you just said. I'm really taking that on board as well. I'm actually a singer and I'm a songwriter and I write poetry. And I've had this massive gap where I've focused so heavily on my businesses that a lot of the time I haven't had the capacity in my schedule to just write unless I actually booked it in and I was
yes,
very disciplined with it. And it does kill that buzz a little bit. Have you experienced
sadly,
times that you've like
that's why
killed your
you started.
buzz? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you started, was the creativity, and it made you feel good and you loved doing it because you love to do it. And then if you try to monetize it, so for songwriting, for example, if you make your money off of doing jingles all day long, you probably didn't start songwriting to sing about macaroni and cheese or whatever it is you're writing a jingle for that week. That's maybe what pays the bills, but it's not what fuels the fire inside of you. So I think as a small business owner or someone who is making a business off of something that's creative or something they're passionate about, it is important to kind of find a balance and to not forget why you started in the first place.
Yeah, I really think there's so much in that. And just like on a personal note, I've been working towards being more creative and just getting back into my flow and adding, now that I've finished this like really strong hustle phase at the beginning of my full timing in this business, and then transitioning to then go, yeah, my schedule's actually freed up. I've delegated that. This is possible for me now. And then I'm like, wow, the whole world just opens up again when I'm able to just write a poem for the sake of writing a poem and just sing a song, or even going for a drive and just blasting music, because I don't have a destination. And there's so much love in that for me at the moment. So I'm really tapping into what you're saying. And I'm like, yes, it's preaching to my soul. I can feel that.
Also, I think a key word that you used in the last couple of sentences was delegate. And I know I have several friends who run their own businesses, and some of them are making their own products. And that's really hard to let go of.
Yeah.
To delegate things out to someone else. As the maker or as the owner, it's hard to not want to take control of everything and have your fingers in every little honeypot of the business.
Yeah.
But you're never going to grow that way, because you're just going to tap out on time. There's only so many hours in the day, and you're going to run yourself ragged because you're not going to have time to, to do the things that you started your business for in the first place.
Right, like that time freedom. Yeah. And even if you wanted to go to events, or you wanted to go and travel, or you've got these like solo adventures that you're going on, or you wanted to do it purely for the sake of having a 10 a.m. wake up time instead of 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. There's all different things for different people. And yeah, I think having that level of understanding, the more that we step into this role of, and what I call CEO energy, we're going to be able to tune into ourselves and go, what do I actually want? What do I really, truly need to make this part of my business work better? Because we're not all social media experts. That's a full-time job.
No.
And, if you're going to then dabble in Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn and Pinterest, and there's multiple others that I could be mentioning right now. And we're not even talking about like Clubhouse or Meets online or live events or anything of the sort, and conferences and whatever. There's a lot of time that we can spend in the marketing space. And it's really crucial to pick experts and to delegate to experts and people that you can afford, because budget is so important for everyone. And then 2, alignment, or B. AB. Are we counting here or saying the alphabet, guys? Somebody needs to keep track. I'm getting loose. but B, we've got to be in alignment with that person and know that they're going to be able to hold our vision, because what you're creating right now is massive. Your business is already on an international scale. You've got clients down here in Australia. You've got people in the US. Are you shipping over to Europe as well? Yeah, so there we go. This is like the earth is also very tiny. And if you've had a worldly view and you've grown up like that, you can really view it it's such a small place. Technology is so readily available And how do you go with your content creation? What does that look like for you like you've got to spend so many hours as the goldsmith and then as mom and wife and as Tasha? How does it all fit?
Yeah, I try to delegate as much as I can, which was really hard in the beginning, because you want to have control over every little thing. But I tried to figure out what is it that I enjoy doing. So what do I want to keep because I enjoy it? And what am I good at? And what am I not good at? So for me, I'm an artist through and through, and I'm pretty extroverted. So my husband always says I can talk to a refrigerator if I need to. So being
Mine
in
was
sales,
speaking under wet cement. That was
yeah. So doing these kinds of things is totally fine with me. Or, talking to customers one-on-one, that's where I'm really, really good. Math, not so much. So the first thing I do is I get a really good accountant.
Yeah.
I will say that I think it's very important, if social media or accounting or whatever is not your thing, it's great to delegate that to someone else, but I think it's really important to learn how that works before you delegate it out. Even if you have no intentions of doing it, if you're going to hire someone to do the marketing for you, I think it's really important for you to know how reels work, how do ads work, so that you know which person to hire, who's going to be most effective for you. And then you know whether they're doing a great job, whether they're on trend. So you still you're maybe not driving the car, but you're still in the passenger seat telling them where to go,
that
right?
analogy. And it is great. Like, it's better for me, even in my experience, and coaches. That's where I think coaches come in, or courses come in, or people that are educators. We're here to teach. We're here to elevate you with a strategy that is unique to you. And at least that's how I work. I don't believe in one size fits all. That's just not my approach. But if you, for example, sign up with an agency and they're outsourcing all of their VAs and there's no touch point with the particular person that's the one that's creating all of your copy and your content, the message gets diluted. There's not as much potency there, and it's not about creative control and holding that and squashing it down to make sure that you're the one that's got your hands on. But like you said, pedal to the metal with the dude that you're paying in the driver's seat, and you're the one navigating. Epic. I love it.
Yeah. So to go back to your question of how am I doing the social media and the marketing, most of that, because I'm kind of the face of the company now and people are used to seeing me, I do a lot of that and have chosen to delegate other things. So some of the manufacturing, I've chosen to free up time that way and send some pieces out to other goldsmiths that I know and I trust and I know are going to do a fantastic job. So instead of me spending 8 hours at the polishing machine polishing, I can devote that more to marketing or emails or
the things you love. Like, the customer service is really what you love, and being approachable and talking and answering questions and like you said, polling your audience. That was a huge theme that we've talked about today. And I'm just so grateful that you've taken up the opportunity to come on this podcast. As you know, it's about a lot of things. And there's been a lot of guests with all different types of backgrounds. And I think you're very unique and really talented. And I admire the way that you've come out of that wave of I'm creating everything for everyone else. And even though you're still doing that, it's almost like now it's still custom. It's like, this is what I want to do. And there's so much conviction and knowing in what you're doing. And it's very grounded energy. I just love all of it. And if you don't mind sharing with the audience right now how we can find you and where you ship to, and do a bit of a blurb about, all things rhythm jewelry.
Oh, sure. Well, we ship pretty much anywhere at this point in time. So our website is www.rhythmjewelry.com. And we just established before we started recording that jewelry is spelled the Canadian/Australian way and not the American way.
Double Lery.
Yeah, two L's. Yes. And then on Facebook and Instagram, we're under @rhythmjewelry as well too.
Yeah, so that's nice and simple. And if you are a dancer or dancers, this is my call to action right now. I want you to share it with people that you know who dance. I want you to find someone that owns a dance school and let them know that this is available, especially for adults in particular. Of course, yes, we love our kids to have nice things, but what about us? What about all those dancers out there that are doing hip hop and they've got dance schools and big, troops that are all catching up for these meetups? The more we really elevate other people's brands and talk about things that are unique, it gives people courage to actually do something that's passionate to them and use their skill set for something that can be monetized and that can be of benefit. It's so amazing that people have this real good representation of something that people live and breathe dance. This is one of those things, and you've really been able to fill that gap in the market. I'm so impressed. I feel like I want to say I'm so proud of you, like just as a businesswoman to woman. It's just amazing. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much, Tasha.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Yeah, it's my total pleasure. For Strategy and Soul podcast, please send us some reviews. We also love comments and shares and all the rest of the beautiful things that we can do to share around these amazing entrepreneurial women that are just here in their power. So thank you so much, Danikah Rose Creative, signing off on Strategy and Soul. Take care, guys. That was so good.
Yeah, I hope that was okay for you.
Incredible.